Hello everyone, it's me, OneGamer4, back in another video, and today is episode 2, so let's just get started. Yesterday I released episode 1 about my thoughts about Game Theory's FNAF timeline videos, in which I discussed my genuine thoughts about part 1 and part 2 of MatPat's timeline. Today we're going to be tackling part 3 because trust me when I say, as much as I want to tackle episode 4, episode 4 needs a part on its own because I have lots to say about that one. So let's just get to it, shall we? I want to start by saying that even though this series is looking like an excuse for me to be a total scumbag to game theory and tear apart what they were saying regarding some things I don't like, stop thinking that. This miniseries is purely made just for fun and discussing the findings MatPat has found, as well as adding some of my own foundings, as well as foundings I found on the internet by other talented FNAF theorists out there. So there is no ill will being shown here. Okay, we all got that. There's no longer any thoughts of me turning heel on game theory. Good. Let's go. Most of episode 3 is where most of MatPat's third part of the timeline I agree very much, or at the least I understand where MatPat is coming from. Pizzeria Simulator and Ultimate Custom Nights are really solid in my eyes, and I agree that despite many sources out there telling us otherwise, Michael just feels like the logical protagonist that we play in FNAF 4 and beyond. So there is a lot of the timeline I agree with. I can't say the same thing about which is fair when even MatPat immediately admits to it. There is something that he actually admits.
Quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know them. There is no good way for me to make them fit in. Here's what...
It's unfortunate, really, it is, but MatPat is correct. We do not have a full, clear answers for us during the making of this video that all comes to the fact that this series has frequent reworks throughout its entirety of being here entertaining our screens. It's hard to believe, really, but FNAF 1 was supposed to be Scott Cawthon's last game after hitting so many road bumps in his life. FNAF 2 was basically building upon what Scott Cawthon had learned from FNAF 1 and expanding upon it. FNAF 3 was meant to close it, because Scotty C planned on stopping at FNAF number 3. But things didn't add up. Scott trying to turn everything in FNAF into a dream theory in the next game, FNAF 4. It would be cool, it would be good, really, it would be good, if the community weren't very loud to the fact that dream theory sucks, like you're dropping your phone and seeing that it's cracked. So Scotty C tried reworking it into an actual timeline, which kickstarts Sister Location all the way up to Security Breach. Even with all that, Scott had the nearly impossible task on taking these confusing pieces and stringing them into workable timeline. So yeah, that makes solving a timeline of FNAF really, really difficult. The best that any of us can do in this community is trying to settle on a few facts and assumptions and see where the placements lie. It really stinks that after going through the web, my beliefs on the timeline began differing from game theories. The assumptions were used, and since then being used, to order the events via timeline. One of the pieces of the evidence game theory used for Michael and his doings is repenting himself by messing around with robots and nasty corpse smell. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I was typing that when I was very sleepy. Basically, that Michael Afton's whole motivation is repenting for his sins by burning down the animatronics and tampering them to free the spirits. This clue is often used to link post Sister Location, so the end of Sister Location, to FNAF 1 and 2. After all, a rotten corpse is going to stink up, and Michael Afton is a walking, talking, rotten corpse. But I think there's another way to bring Michael Afton to FNAF Uno and Dos without becoming a corpse. Stick with me on this one. It is known from Help Wanted that Fazbear Entertainment is willing and able to use so many excuses to fire their employees in their company, especially if they can find a way to blame the problem on the poor sap that they got their eye on firing, and saying they fixed the problem by firing them. Now, what have we been told time and time again about the classics and the Witters? They have a strong, disgusting smell, like something is rotten inside. I mean, we all know what's really rotten inside, but let's not repeat it, shall we? So if your robots are starting to bug out and glitch out in a way that's scaring away your customers, with the additional of having a smell that could rival even any dumpster in the world, what is easier for the company? Especially for a company that is so shady that they keep coming back when even their restaurant is just known for toddler slaying. Taking time, money, resources to look into the robots and find out what's the problem? Nah, let's not do that. Let's point our fingers to the night guard and say, we fired this innocent night guard. We did it, boys. Let's get coffee. With this solution, it works, but I will admit as I'm writing this script, that it brings its own issues to the table. Issue number one is, if Michael Afton is just a normal guy, why on earth is he going after the FNAF locations? He wouldn't have any reason to be anywhere near these places of haunting robots who will rip him to shred. Frankly, knowing his history of placing his little brother crying child in the said robots, he would be trying to avoid them at all costs. Also, if sister location hadn't happened yet, would he have known his father's crimes? Well, who's to say that he shouldn't know about William's crimes? The FNAF Security Logbook is honestly my favorite book coming out from the FNAF IP. That's honestly dropped the best lore about Golden Freddy being Cassidy. But this book is also a book telling us about Michael. This book tells us about Michael and how he walks, how he breathes, his state of mind, and most importantly, we see Michael in contact with spirits in this book. Michael is talking with these ghosts. Sure, it could have just been the spirits that are inside Golden Freddy, aka Cassidy and his little brother Crying Child, but that's more than enough. Not only that, but in the same book, in the same security logbook under television, Michael wrote down the following, quote, Clara from Immortal and the Restless, because everything about this place is crazy and no one seems to notice except me. Michael seems to have some sort of sightseeing that sees something that is not right with these pizzerias. And if he is able to talk with ghosts like Cassidy and his little brother, he would have knowledge of the one behind it all. His father. Michael may already know who was the evil that took those children's lives in the pizzeria, as well as knowing his father getting what his just deserves. So, what does that mean? Well, how about we say it like this? When the FNAF 2 location goes in investigation, Michael wants to make sure that his dad cannot get away with his killings. Michael has seen the location, was hiring and looking for a night shift security guard. Right after the investigation shuts its doors, Michael wanted that. Michael would go and check where Fazbear Entertainment and the police would never look. The robots. Michael will go there and rip them apart, opening to expose the crimes his father has committed. Getting William arrested for the things he has done. I mean, messing up my words. Anyway, getting William arrested for good for all the things he has done for the family of the victims, as well as paying for what he has done to his own family. It was his robots that kind of tore the family apart, regardless of how you see it. That would have been the plan, but Michael didn't find anything in the robots. His father didn't stuff any children in the robots. We see the children scatter on the layout on the Follow Me minigame. The police have found and collected the bodies, and William Afton lives to do it all again for another day. Michael didn't get what he wanted, but he did get himself in trouble with footage of him tampering with the animatronics. This, I feel, is the logical way Michael getting hired in the FNAF 2's location after investigation, after the investigation has already happened, but would have used a fake name like Fritz Smith and be fired on the same day. Now, this next part is definitely, and I might need to sit down for this. This next part is definitely me throwing myself under the bus, and it's the very reason why I'm tackling only part 3 and not part 4. But, just hear me out. What if Michael Afton was the victim of the bite of 87, like how Crying Child was the bite of 83? It's like Star Wars, it rhymes. Now, before I get blasted by all of y'all, let me explain my thought process. We hear directly 2 things about the bite of 87.
And then there was the bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know? Now, concerning your safety, the only real risk to you as a night watchman here, if any.
So, they used to be able to walk around during the day, and someone can live without the frontal lobe. This piece of evidence is just another nail in the coffin for the theory of Fredbear's Family Diner being the bite of 87, because 1, Fredbear seems to be nailed on the stage, so he wouldn't have moved, and 2, Crying Child didn't make it out alive, and the phone guy calls out that the fact that someone did survive. Now let's take a look on the FNAF 2's toy animatronics. So we're able to walk during the day. They were able to walk during the day, and we know the victim of the bite specifically survived. So if Michael Afton was the one who took apart the robots will do anything to protect themselves by fighting, or rather biting, back. This could also add on why Michael was fired. If Michael's injury was on accident, on the fault of the company, they would have to give Michael Afton tons of money and even handle legal damages. But if Michael's tampering caused the issue in the first place, and the company can prove it, they don't owe Michael a single dime. And they could even sue Michael for it. Fazbear Entertainment, everybody! Most shady business to grace God's green earth. Plus, this supports my Star Wars claim about it rhyming. Michael getting bitten on the head like his brother, but more importantly, being bitten by the robots that were their fathers. Speaking of dear old Daddy Dearest, while Michael is away in hospital recovering, William could come back to get the scrap toy animatronics, melting them down together to make that sweet, sweet remnant so that he can put into the Funtime creations. This could also explain why Michael has memory lost in the books. Yeah, remember the time MadPat was calling out that Michael wrote off his name in the beginning of the book? Granted, no one would remember this, but this was around the time where MadPat was covering Step Closer, the Fazbear Frights number 4. And well, yes, the next theory after that was basically Cassidy and Crying Child was basically exposing the fact that Crying Child and Cassidy are both spirits in the logbook and they both possess Golden Freddy. We never really figured out why Michael wrote off his name, did we? Maybe it's because of the frontal lobe being missing, he doesn't remember. His memory's foggy. Now, the placement of FNAF 1 is a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky to say the least. We know it's 1993, but people tend to think it takes place after Sister Location, where Michael starts his quest with motivation of tracking down his father and setting things right with the spirits. But there is something I want to call out. If FNAF 1 happened after Sister Location and William Afton isn't in Springlock yet, why would William send Michael down to Sister Location instead of himself? Considering he's kind of more capable than his son? Well, what if it's William just looking out for himself? What do we know about the Funtime animatronics? They're aggressive, especially to their maker, William Afton. They tried to kill Michael for the very reason that he looked like his dad. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. That was Michael's words. I mean, they even wore his skin when Anna rescued Michael. It was clear that going down to a sister location is an issue now for William Afton. But he needs to continue his work, so who better but his only son that he has left? One who just got out of hospital and is lost, confused, willing to listen to every word he said. Before we continue on, I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to sugarcoat trauma of the frontal lobe for some indie game series. I know there's at least a few people out there who have suffered losing frontal lobes, and this is not me trying to make fun in any way, shape, or form. But based on what I read online, the frontal lobe is responsible for memory, judgment, and a lot more things. Logically, by logic, if you've been in a coma for quite some time and woke up in some memory fog, like if you had some memory fog and issue with your judgment, and the first thing you get when you out of the world from hospital is your father asking you to do something for him? Oh yeah, I mean, if you and your dad have a strained relationship, you don't trust him as much, but at the end of the day, that's your dad. Where else are you going to go? So you would listen to him. Thus starting Sister Location with Michael Afton. Everything in Sister Location stays the same, but every night, Michael is remembering everything, slowly. The fact that he has a sister, a brother. Information comes back to him, that he starts writing it down, his thoughts, in a book, the security logbook. But when Michael gets scooped and becomes some sort of fleshy reverse Iron Man, God, that made me lose some of my lunch. I'm sorry for saying that and giving you that disturbing thought in your mind. The remnant helped boost up Michael getting back his memories, as well as having memories of the missing children victims. Because, let's be honest, Molten MCI just seems like it's getting canon and canon. By the time Anon abandoned ship, Michael knows too much now. And he knows what really happened. He knows exactly who did all this. And his mission was set. He was going to come look for his father. So, what about FNAF 1? Does that follow next in the timeline? Well, yeah, but let's add some dates for game theory, shall we? Because he did not add dates. He doesn't know them. Well, here's hoping that I can help for him knowing that. Might have to sit down for this. Might have to sit down. Okay, it's recording? Alright. Whew! Alright. Let's add some dates. We know that from the paychecks in FNAF 2 that the game takes place in 1987. But more importantly, on the 5th night, we get a paycheck for November 12th, 1987. Using the Wayback Machine, because, yes, I did. That lands us on a Thursday. If we complete the 6th night, we get a newspaper about the restaurant closing down and another paycheck for November 13th, 1987, a Friday. So we have two paychecks to cross-reference with the ones in FNAF 1, which takes place roughly the same days, but with just scratched out years. So we need to figure out the year. We got ourselves good contenders using the Wayback Machine. We got 1992, 1998, and lastly 2009. Straight away, I feel like a gap of 22 years between FNAF 2 and 1 is a big stretch. So 2009, straight down to the garbage chute. especially considering Circus Baby's Pizza World opened soon after FNAF 2 and closed very quickly. That's a huge gap right there. And I'm also worried about 1992, mainly because it just seems to be opening too fast. What I mean by that is that if we have 1987 as our starting point, okay? 1987 is our starting point, and we have 1992 to be our ending point, then between that short frame between 1987 and 1992, we need to have these following to happen. We need William to make the fun times and establish Circus Baby with help with investors, because that's one of the things you gotta do when you do a restaurant or an establishment of that matter. We need to have Circus Baby closed down on the first day due to Elizabeth getting scooped. We need William to conduct more experiments on the background, thus basically establishing Circus Baby's rental services, where he rents out some of his fun time creations out in the world to bring back children for him. We need to have Michael recover from his injuries in 1987. We need to have Michael go down to Sister Location to begin the gameplay of Sister Location. We need to have Michael get scooped to begin his revenge quest. And lastly, we need William to open another establishment, because who else knows how to make the Witters look like the classics? It can't be Henry, because it don't make sense. Why would Henry establish another FNAF, another Fazbear Entertainment, when basically this whole company has basically robbed him from everything? His wife? Gone. The missus left and took the child, and took his son, who may or may not be canon. His daughter? Gone. He has tons of children connected to his restaurants being killed. And now his own worker is possibly the one who conducted this whole pain to begin with. So I just don't see Henry helping William to do this. So it has to be William Afton. So, yeah, we're looking at, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that needs to happen in that short amount of time. So our best bet is that FNAF 1 has to take place in 1987. It's the best date to give us more time to flesh out for all the points that happen. But do we have more proof to support the claim? Pretty much. And the evidence is named Phone Guy. Quote, "If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath," end quote. Now, we don't know FNAF 1 open. We don't know when it opened. We know it takes place, but not exactly when it opens up. We just know that it opened after Fredbear's Diner and closed sometime after 1987, when the second one opened up. 1992 would put the opening in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1972. Wait, I think I said that wrong. Yeah. We know that opening Fredbear's and closed sometime after 1987, when the second one opens up. 1992 would put the opening of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1972, or somewhere around the time frame. Yeah, I think that sounds better. That just sounds too long, and meaning Freddy Fazbear would be open up 10 years. But if we say it was 1988, places that time into 1978, 1978, which sounds plausible to what we got. So, what does this all mean? What is this all for? What is the story that MapHead is trying to tell us? Well, here's how I say it. Michael Afton goes to work at FNAF 2's location soon after the investigation begins to try opening up the robots and expose what his father has done. His frontal lobe gets bitten off in 1987, no longer being the man who started working there. After recovering from the hospital, Michael follows William's instructions to go down in Sister Location's bunker to finish the experiments for him. Poor old Michael didn't even see it coming as he got scooped, before being left for dead, 'cause thank you, Ennard. Michael vows to hunt down his father after that. At some point down the line, somewhere in the mid-90s, William Afton tries to lure the Funtimes back to the location to continue his work by opening another pizzeria with the classic animatronics we see in FNAF 1. Because the Funtimes have pieces of them. And the Funtimes are now in Ennard. And Ennard was supposed to be in Michael. This was supposed to be a chance for bringing these erratic spirits back to their former homes in some way. But that was the plan. But in 1998, the son comes back, seeking revenge, and answered the call instead. The son that no longer had Ennard inside. A son who doesn't have the robots William wanted inside of him. William just closed down the place and finally, for once in his life, give up in finding Ennard. I mean, if Ennard is not Michael Afton, then God knows where it is. So you would think that would be it, right? Nope. Because William tears down the OG animatronics as seen in FNAF 3's minigame to get more remnant, only to see the ghosts of his victims, and thus getting Springlock becoming Springtrap, like he deserved it. The rest of MapHead's video I agree very much with. 25 years pass and Fazbear Frights, as well as FNAF 3, open up. Michael finding William and burns everything to the ground, only for William to escape. Henry decides to step up in the plate and does Michael plan, but better because, dang it, Henry just has some, I don't know, he has like this tendency to do what the Aftons couldn't. After FNAF 6, William gets a nice vacation in Ultimate Custom Night, where Cassidy can torture William forever and all eternity. Plus, if this story is led to believe, and this story began when Crying Child had died in 1983, and FNAF 6 was supposed to be the closing of the original chapter, which is in 2023, that's 40 years of the Afton saga in-game. Yep, it took 40 years to finally best William Afton. And FNAF 1, the game that started this whole franchise, is chilling in the middle in 1993. It's chilling in the middle of 1998. That's where I was going to wrap it off, but I know there's something that y'all have been wondering. You're wondering if Michael would burn down the other locations so that we get the Phantoms look. Because the Phantoms do look like they were burnt. Well, I'm here to say that that's up to you, really. I'm not trying to solve everything here, but it's either whether or not you want Michael to go back and burn the other locations once he's done with it. I leave you with two choices and how you want to do it. You can have Michael burn down the other locations once he's done with them, or he doesn't burn them down, but because of the state of Fazbear Frights and fire being a main worrying issue, as well as the minigame where we're trying to have some O2 being still with us, that's what's giving Michael illusions. So pumping up his fear of fire, and what else is targeting him? But animatronics? Oh yeah, burnt animatronics. The Phantoms. And that's it! God, my fingers feel like they were typing for hours and on end. I need a break. I really like the Game Theories videos, really I do. But man, when trying to fix some of them, I need a break. So that's part 3, everybody. I hope you enjoy, and hopefully I can get episode 3 coming out on Saturday, so I can relax my fingers. So you know what to do at this point. Like the video so I know you guys enjoyed. Comment down below if you think I nailed this one. And subscribe, since we're trying to download. Subscribe, we're trying to upload daily. This is OneGamer54, Signing off.